everyone. I am Alena with Celebrate Every Step, and I have my LSW specializing in the mental health and well-being side of things, and my clinical hypnotherapy certification. And with that, I tend to work with a lot of people on anxiety, traumas, unpacking inner child and shadow work, among many, many other things. And I also bring in the metaphysical side with the psychic medium and spiritual guide. And I am so excited to be here today with Jennifer of 2 Mile Tarot. And she is a certified master tarot and occult practitioner. And she is going to be part of the vendor expo on June 24th, 2023 in Punxsutawney. And we're bringing in mind, body, heart, and soul to the area, to the local people. And I am so happy to have her with me today because I have known Jennifer for a long time. And she is it's been a long time, but also not a long time.
Yeah, I guess. Right. It feels like a long time.
Yes. Yeah. One of those, I had Joan on yesterday and it was like, I feel like I've known you forever and it's really only been a couple years, but I think that happens where you just have those soul, personality, similar mindset connections. And it's just like that immediate, like, oh, we get each other. We have the same vibe. We have the same interests. And so it just becomes this really cool, I was going to say marriage, but we're not married. We're just friends.
We're not to that level. No.
Haven't proposed yet, but, so, I'm so thankful that you have come into my life because you have, helped me elevate my business and my commitment to things, because what I love about you is that you bring your all to everything that you do. And so whether that was baby wearing a few years ago when your boys were little, you were the one that had all the raps, that led the groups, that taught other people how to do it. And now you have moved, and I think it's always been a part of you, your occult connection, your tarot connection, your connection to nature. But now you have really incorporated all of that into your day-to-day, bringing that sacredness and intention into just, your everyday life and your everyday practice. So thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's start there. Let's talk a little bit about kind of who you are and what brought you into this world of, the occult practitioner, the tarot reader, and just tell me a little bit about that.
So I think I always had an interest in it. There just wasn't a lot of resources, in like the 90s, early 2000s, but I always had an interest in it. But I think when I really got serious about it was when I was looking for more from my spirituality, and I just wasn't getting what I wanted from what I had been grown up with. So I was looking for something extra, and I started looking into the metaphysical. I got myself a deck of cards and taught myself to read, and read just for myself, for my own growth and my own learning, shadow work, stuff like that. And eventually started just, reading other people, fooling around for fun, taking my cards into work. And everyone was like, you should read for people. You should charge people for this. And I was like, I don't think so. I don't think anyone's gonna, purchase a reading from me. But after some time, I worked really hard, took a lot of classes, worked on my own spirituality. So really learning what worked for me, things like meditation or, working with crystals, being connected with nature, which is something that I had as a child growing up my whole life. My parents were very connected to nature. That's something I've always had, but just really tying that all into a daily practice so that it was something that I was always doing and working on and whatever. So eventually I got to the point where I started offering my readings, and it's kind of taken off from there. It's been a great experience. I've met so many wonderful clients, so much community. You were actually a mentor to me, which actually, believe it or not, was like 4 years ago. It's been almost that
And,
long.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
because
it was before the whole pandemic. So,
pandemic, right,
yeah.
right. Yeah,
Well,
so I've had my
yeah.
business for, it'll be 4 years coming up
Oh,
here in October that
congratulations.
thank you, that I started my business. And you were there early on as one of my mentors when we did the
The
Reader
meetup.
Healer meetup group.
Mhm.
Yeah, and exchange readings with each other. So yeah, I've done a lot of different things to kind of get where I am now. But yeah, I love it. I get to offer so many cool things in addition to readings. I do classes. Bianca and I Bianca's from Pebble and Root. We
Mhm.
do a cards and crystals workshop together that we offer sometimes at expos or sometimes privately or at different businesses, whatever it may be. And I've had all these wonderful experiences now. So it's been kind of like like a decade now of really being serious about working with spirituality, the metaphysical, tarot cards, and then also helping other people to see
Mhm.
that and what it can do for them, the possibilities that it can have for their own growth and just feeling more connected. And I'm really of the mindset that like we're here a short time, so why not live a magical life? Like, yeah, you have to be realistic. I mean, I'm a scientist in my day job, so that's another thing we have in common is like our medical interests and that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. So yeah, I have to be realistic, and we all do to a point. We have to live in this world, but you can make your life so magical with all these tools and things that can help you just feel better about life and make things a little more interesting. And why not?
Yeah, and there's so many points in there that I want to touch on, but that is a good point of, yeah, we both have the science background, and even with that, that brings in that more linear thinking, that more black and white thinking, but also there's a lot of mystical things in science. We're
Yeah.
even looking at quantum physics,
Mm-hmm.
showing what a lot of us who kind of already were interested in the science and the more metaphysical and mystical, we already knew that there's a lot within us and on a cellular level that we don't understand what it
Mm-hmm.
does. And now
Right.
they're looking at that and they're saying, they used to call it junk DNA. Well, it's not junk, it's there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really cool that, science is starting to kind of prove some of those things that we've
Mm-hmm.
known for years. And yeah, even with that, I spent a summer doing autopsies because that was my plan. Was I wanted to be a pathologist, and so I did an internship. But even with that, talking to the people who were deceased, like this just came to mind. It was like, oh yeah, the guy who was the one that prepped the suite before the doctors came in. He was like, yeah, I always talk to these people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I treat them like they are here with me and
Mm-hmm.
with respect and with dignity. Um, even though obviously we're getting into some, parts of the body that aren't always seen, but like,
Mm-hmm.
it matters how we present ourselves, how we
Yeah.
interact with others, whether they are real live clients in front of us, whether
Mm-hmm.
they are deceased clients on the other side, or, whether we're getting into the nitty gritty sciencey stuff, or we're getting into the more metaphysical and even therapy side of things.
Yeah.
That is pretty flowy and woo woo when we're talking about thoughts and feelings and, all of those things. So, yeah, I love how you have brought all of that to your daily life, but also to your tarot practice
Mm-hmm.
too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And, that's the other point that you touched on that I think is so important is that you are a lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm.
So, while it started out as just an, kind of an interest, a hobby, you have really dived into learning and understanding all of the layers of
Yeah.
tarot and,
Yes.
each card, just one card, has so much symbolism,
Yes.
and you
Yes.
really unpack all of that. So I would love to hear a little bit about all of those layers and all of the different pieces that you look at, and then what could even go deeper than that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, there's so many layers to tarot, and different readers are going to focus on different layers. And I love to lean into like the mystical, magical side. I use the Rider-Waite-Smith deck for most of my readings. I also use some oracle cards and stuff too, but that's kind of my basis deck. And that deck was created by the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which is a Western mystery tradition, essentially a magical secret society. And the cards were actually part of their assignments. Each person would have to create a deck of cards. And it was about reaching your highest potential, using the cards as kind of a pathway to not only connect with the divine, but be more like the divine. And, you know, that idea of kind of less suffering and being able to step into the best version of ourselves where we're able to take charge and, you know, reach our goals and do things like that. And yeah, I mean, so I really like to lean into that aspect of it that a lot of people don't realize is there. There's so much in the cards, astrology, so many different religions, from Sufism to Judaism, Christianity, ancient Egyptian spirituality. I mean, there's so many different systems embedded in the cards. They kind of took the wisdom from all these different things, alchemy, numerology, and just embedded these in the cards through the symbology and the art and the meaning. And I really, as well as reading and bringing that to the client, I really like to encourage clients to take that beyond the reading, really go home. And the Rider-Waite-Smith cards are not copyrighted, so you can print them off the internet. Print the card out and really take a look at what you see, what symbols are sticking out to you, and what does that card mean to you, and work with it. Put it on your nightstand. Look at that card every day for what you're trying to manifest. It's just that reminder of maybe a goal you've set or what you want to focus on, or maybe what you don't want to do. So that's a big part of how I read. I really like to just bring people possibilities. That's what readings with me are all about, is laying out the cards, giving you a chance to kind of sit with your emotions and where you are and what's going on in your life right now, which most of us don't take enough time to do. So you're sitting down and we're exploring that. And I'm not going to tell you what to do or how to do it, but I'm going to give you possibilities. I'm going to give you what is coming up in the cards. We're going to talk about why that's coming up in the cards. And I'm going to give you the possibilities that the cards are offering. And it's just, it's a different perspective. It's a way to look at things differently. And I think we all really struggle with that, where we get stuck in our head about a situation or a relationship or maybe a goal that we're not reaching. And my readings are really about offering you a different way to look at things. And a lot of times that goes beyond the reading. So you have the reading with me. We lay all this out for you, really encourage people to take notes. I really encourage people to stay in contact with me after a reading. You know, ask me questions, or if something is unclear or something's coming up for you, feel free to message me. And, you know, just really dig into those cards and see how it's coming up for you and what it can offer you for the path forward. So that's kind of what my readings are about.
Yeah, I love that, because, you know, so a couple of points there. Number one, I love it as a pathway to connect with the divine, because I think there's so many ways to do that. And I think, you know, I do that in my day to day, and I love to see how other people bring in that divine connection in their day to day. You know, my go-tos are, I do yoga first thing, and then I do meditation. That is like right out of the gate. You know, I bring in different stones. I was showing you my petrified wood, because this morning was so crazy that I needed grounding. And so, you know, I tap in that early morning of like, okay, what stone makes sense for me today? So I'm connecting with the divine, but I'm also connecting with Mother Earth and the stones that they have provided for us. Or if you want to say God, or, you know, whatever belief system you want to bring into that, that's what matters. It doesn't matter what other people do. It doesn't necessarily matter what works for other people. What matters is what works for you in your day to day. And I, like you, nature is a huge part of my belief system and of my coping system, of my grounding system, of my releasing system. So there's so many ways that I use nature. You know, when I shower at night, I imagine all of the stress of the day leaving me. I will even say, if I've picked up anybody else's energy, you know, let that flow away. So that's bringing in that water element. And, I have the candles burning that bring in that fire element to burn up any of that negative energy, to really transmute that. And so there's just so many ways to do that. And I like to offer people options so that they can try out what works for them. And so I love that you're showing them how to bring that divine into their day to day. And when you pull a card and it has the elements on it, or it has these other things, like you can be like, look, like maybe you need to be drinking more water, if we're talking
exactly
cups, not only is that water, but that's emotions. That could be literal water, that could be go soak in some Epsom salts, whatever that is. So we can look at all of those layers and really break that down. And that goes right into the other point that I want to bring out, is tapping into their own intuition. So you're bringing your intuition into reading the cards. And then there's very clear messages that each of the cards offer. So you lay that out, but then that person has to take that in and figure out how that works for them, how that applies to them. You're opening that door.
Yes.
You're opening them to possibility. You're encouraging them to trust themselves, so that when they go home and they sit with that card, or as they're driving, thoughts and feelings and other messages come in, so that they can really, you're the jumping off point into, okay, where does this card need to take you? How can this message go deeper? What else do you need to know and experience with this card, helping kind of open up your eyes and maybe guide you in some different directions? So
yes,
I love
exactly. Yeah, no, and I love how you described it. It's great. It's a jumping off point. That's exactly right. You sit in your reading and you hear all this stuff, and you're going to have different emotions and you're going to feel different ways, but then you're going beyond that and learning to better trust yourself. And again, I really encourage people to get a deck of cards and, work on their own, because I love to inspire people beyond being just a reader. I love to inspire people to learn tarot themselves and see what it can do for them, because it's been such an amazing tool for me in so many ways. And that's why I do also offer intro to tarot classes, level 2 tarot classes, to help people, because tarot can be really overwhelming, and it really helps people to have somebody there to kind of guide them into working with the cards and getting started. So that's been a big part of my work, especially lately, is offering classes that can really help people to help themselves. So,
yeah. And I love classes because, I love one-on-one sessions. That is definitely my jam, because then we can go really, really deep into the particular issues that person has. And obviously too, like I'm dealing with people with past traumas, with past hurts. So, it's pretty personal information and personal work. But when we get in that class setting, the energy is just amplified. Every person that comes is, number one, showing up for themselves, which is huge. Even just showing up for yourself to something that you're interested in, that you're excited about, that already raises the vibration and the energy. And then, all of their spirit teams are coming into that space as well. So I love the energy and the dynamic of classes and courses. And then oftentimes what I find too, not only in when I attend classes, but when I'm the facilitator, people will ask a question and everybody will be like, oh yeah, I need to know that too. You know, but they didn't know how to put it into words, or they didn't even, they hadn't really brought it into their consciousness. But then as soon as somebody else asks it, they're like, oh yeah, that's good. I needed to know that. So
yeah, I love classes. I love the energy of classes. It's so much fun. And getting people together. The last one I did, a lot of the women in the class knew each other. And I mean, it just became like a fun, like, oh, this card's calling me out. And look at what card I got. Can you believe this? And, they were like, oh yeah, I know what situation that's talking about. And it was really fun. So I love, that's a big part of kind of my path, is not just being a reader. Like I love offering the readings, but I really love guiding people to find their own way and find again, a magical, kind of bring that magical lifestyle into their world, whatever that may mean for them.
Yeah.
But there's just so much cool stuff out there, and why not,
Yeah. Why
use
not
it to your
work?
advantage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, and the other thing I love about classes, and people, I work at a couple different places, and while they can't hear the conversation, they will hear our big guff offs of laughter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, but I say, like, we're doing deep healing spiritual work, but we are also meant to laugh and have fun along the way. So, even when I'm talking with people about like dark shit that has happened to them in the past, well, we got to laugh. We got to move that energy. We got to get that flowing. And that's the other piece of classes that I love, is that there can be laughter, there can be fun brought into all of this work. And I think it's completely necessary to laugh way more than what we do. Like, that was one of my clients this week. That was his homework. I was like, every time you think about stress, every time you think about this other stress that he's dealing with, I was like, I want you to either tell a joke or look up a joke, because he's like this big jokester. He loves to tell jokes. He loves to create, like, he'll write like bits, but because he's been so stressed out, so depressed, so anxious, that kind of went by the wayside. So that was his homework. Like, I love that. I want you to tell more jokes, because that will completely shift his energy. And that is the beauty of the classes, is bringing in that fun dynamic to this very complicated, sometimes difficult work. So
right. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So do you? What all do you do in your day that brings in that sacredness, that intention, kind of that more purposeful way of living? Like, what are some of your routines, just so people can kind of hear and understand those rituals and practices and things like that?
Sure. So like I said before, I'm like you, big on the nature connection. So I try to walk like almost every day. A lot of times I'll do a walking meditation, which a lot of people think of meditation in a very specific way. And walking meditations are actually a really cool way to meditate without like the traditional way of meditating. So I like to do that. I'm currently taking a class where I have to do 100 mantras every evening. So that's been really cool. I mean, I always had a practice before where I would connect, I would meditate. I had my things that I did, but this has really been next level. There's a lot of commitment in this class. It's a 7-month course. And then we'll go beyond that. I mean, I'll continue with this. So I'm doing 100 mantras every night, and usually some kind of a small ritual, and calling in different pieces of the divine, different spirits, whatever that may be, to support kind of what I'm manifesting and what I'm looking for, what I'm trying to make happen in my life. So that's kind of a big part of usually like a 10 or 15 minute part of my day that I'm spending doing that. And as well as pulling cards. I don't always pull cards every single day, but I pull cards on a pretty regular basis, or when I'm done with my mantras, to kind of see what I need to do better to make something happen, or what I need to focus on to make something happen. So that's a big part of really, and very intentional. I mean, I'm sitting down every night and really thinking about what am I trying to make happen? What are my goals? What are my business goals? What are my personal goals with my family or my own health? And really, or what are my career goals? Whatever that may mean. But that's part of every day. So you're not just kind of walking through life aimlessly. It's really a focus that you're using these different metaphysical elements, which also make it fun, because you're bringing in, maybe candles, maybe herbs, maybe oils, different things to aid all of your senses and kind of connecting to your intentions and what you want to manifest. So that's, and then I'll do, the new moon is usually a big time for me, because I do work with one of the dark goddesses on a regular basis. So that's a big time for me to do some kind of ritual, and usually do an offering and kind of be thankful for whatever guidance I've been given, or kind of how that divine connection has aided me in my life. So so that's kind of some of the things I do.
Yeah. And I love that. And I think that's the thing too, you know, when we're talking about goal setting, you know, there are steps to goal setting. You know, we know what works with our brains. Habit stacking, we know scientifically that works. And so, you know, when you're tying ritual and practice to the new moon, okay, so you know that comes around. So this is what I'm doing on this day. And I actually am offering a class at the end of the month called Moon Magic. And with just that idea of,
nice.
Let's look at the phases of the moon. It happens every month, or, you know, whatever cycle that is. And so let's break that down. What do you want to incorporate in your day-to-day life? But then also looking at the new moon, the full moon, the waxing, waning, you know, all of those pieces and parts. And then how does that apply to me and what I want to be doing? And, you know, I did that last night. I was out late for a birthday dinner, and it's the full moon. And I had I'm obsessed with spheres right now. So I have my Ruby and Zoisite sphere with me. And, you know, so as I left, and it was high energy, we were like screaming at each other for 2 hours. We were so loud. And then I got in the car, you know, I looked at the moon as I was walking to my car, took a breath, got settled and centered. And then as I drove home, I was in silence and thinking about, what do I want to release right now? What is it serving me? What do I need to shift and change and do better or do differently? And then just kind of got quiet too, like just really kind of settling into being instead of always having to be doing. So, you know, I think there's that piece of the occult and ritual and practice where, yes, we want to do, but we also just want to be and experience and breathe into it and live life in that way. So, you know, goals, intentions. Yes. But okay, now allow what does I've done, now you can do for me, and kind of that back and forth mindset. So that's what I love about looking at things in that way. That's so perfect. And I love that the kids are home today, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Could you hear that?
We knew this was a little dicey, but it's all good.
We knew.
So the walking meditation is an excellent point. So I also do walking meditations. I like David G. So I download his meditations because we go through some mantras together, and then he goes silent and you continue repeating those. So I do it as I'm walking. And for people with ADHD, with obsessive tendencies, with minds that are just going a million miles a minute and have a hard time slowing and settling, walking meditation is fantastic because there's the science of it is that as the world is passing past our eyes, basically, so as we're moving through the world, it actually calms and slows the brain, which then of course will calm and slow the nervous system.
Oh, nice.
And so there is a real benefit to the walking meditations and how that really works well for people. And so I love that you brought that up, and that is something that you bring into your day to day. And I just kind of wanted to share with people, because I hear that a lot of like, I can't meditate. And I get it. It's hard to sit still. It's hard when you have a million to-do things on your to-do list. When there are, you know, kids home from school or the animals need something, it's hard to just sit. But while you're learning how to do that better and better, then you can also start with something like a walking meditation. Now, do you do them silent? Do you listen to music? Like, what's your go-to for your walking meditation?
I do them silent. I don't really understand how people listen to music anywhere. That's like beyond me. I'm so confused at how people put headphones on and like walk through cities, or like why you would want to be honest. Like I want to hear all the noises, and especially when I'm not in a city and I'm in nature. And in the
Mhm.
city, it's more like I want to be aware of what's going on so I don't get killed, hit by a car or whatever. But when I just, the sound of the birds, the sound of the leaves rustling, if it's that time of year, the sound of the wind blowing through the trees, woodpecker, whatever it may be, is just, I think it's taking in all those different senses and really being conscious of every step that you take and feeling that, and just feeling the world around you, smelling the dampness, after a rain, or, maybe you can smell some fragrance from flowers in the spring or whatever it may be. I really prefer to just have that connection.
Yeah, use all of your senses. Yeah, and there is a real benefit to using all of the senses. That is very calming and soothing, and so vital and important. And that's something that I teach people, how to bring them back to the present. So, like when their anxiety is feeling out of control, or their thoughts are all over the place. Yeah, like let's just bring it back to the present. Let's feel the warmth. Let's smell the smell. Let's taste the taste and feel that move through your body. But I listen to music, so I kind of just tap into what I need that particular day. And sometimes I like to put both. Well, I'll put one in because I leave one out because I'm usually on the road. And put on music because music is really powerful and transformative for me. So it shifts my energy, it shifts my vibration. And then I also do kind of use it sometimes as that drowning out. So if I can be singing, I like songs that I can sing along to. So if I can be singing those words, it just shifts something in me in a different way. So I kind of alternate between either a walking meditation where I listen to David G, somebody else guiding it. I go to the silence, but using all of the senses, or I'll go to music and kind of drown things out, or, use the singing, because that's the vagal nerve. And so when we sing or hum, it actually calms the nervous system. So
I believe that. Yeah.
Like that. And that's the thing, like intuitively, this feels good. I don't understand why, but it feels good. And then you learn the science and you're like,
there's science to back it up. Yes. That's with a lot of things.
Good.
I mean, that's a lot of things. And I mean, I think that's even with tarot, I think it comes down as simple as a human connection. I mean, it's, you're sitting down in front of someone. It's self-care right off the bat, because you're taking that time to sit down, block everything out, and just really focus on that reading. So you're giving yourself that time to sit with your emotions and your feelings and what sensations you're having. And then it's a connection. I mean, it's talking to someone who is not a family member, who is not a friend, who is helping you just explore what you're going through and guiding you kind of on that trip with the cards to allow you to explore that and just feel everything you're feeling, and stop for a minute and say, well, what am I even feeling? Because, we don't do that enough. So I think that's definitely, yes.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We're like, we were talking about, the thoughts and this and that and so many different things, but let's take a breath. Let's be here together. Let's take all in. Let's actually feel into our bodies and notice what's going on physically, but also much more so mentally and emotionally. What is happening within me? And it's so necessary and does not happen nearly enough. And, I tell people, I see people, some people weekly, I see some people every other week, I see some people once a month, and then I see some people just a couple times a year. And even if they're seeing me weekly, that is still only 90 minutes in all the other minutes of the week. So I know you're a big believer in this too, of, okay, here's some tools, like how do you actually apply this? Bringing the practicality into it, and then coming back around and revisiting that. And I love that aspect of what we each do. I want to talk about, there's lots of different tarot readers out there. There's even going to be a couple of different tarot readers at the expo. And I invited certain readers because you're all so different. So, I encourage people to to walk around, to feel into each person and see who you feel drawn to. And that's why I want to do these interviews as well, because then they get to know you ahead of time. You know,
Yes.
how do you tick? How do you think about things, feel about things? And so noticing that if that works for them and if that vibes for them. And so, I would love to hear about the types of readings that you'll be offering at the expo.
Yeah. So, I mean, I offer your general style reading, which is what most people think of with tarot, where you kind of sit down, and most of the time, I prefer that you have some kind of a guideline of what area of life you're looking into. So are we looking at career here? Are we looking at relationships? Are we looking at your spirituality? Some people just want me to throw down cards. And I mean, I do that too. And sometimes those readings turn out really well also. It just brings up what we need to talk about. So yeah, I can pretty much any of those types of readings where we're just, again, exploring, giving you options, possibilities, what the cards are saying, why they're bringing up what they're bringing, kind of going through all that. But I do offer a couple specialty readings. So one reading that I offer is my Dark Goddess readings. So like I talked to before, I do work with one of the Dark Goddesses. And, I was just reading a quote today, and I can't even remember what it was. I have it on my phone that would apply really well to this. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah. So it says, Dark Goddesses are not evil. They deal with shadows, fear, abandonment, healing, and the unseen. They are the ones in the trenches with us when things get dirty, walking with us during dark nights of the soul. So there's like this perception that Dark Goddesses are, somehow, the devil, or there's some negativity associated. And that's not at all what it's about when we're working with them. It's really a healing process. It's really exploring the parts of ourselves that we don't like people to see, or that we feel disconnected from, and all of that. And so my Dark Goddess reading uses an oracle card to connect you with a specific Dark Goddess. I work with mainly like 7 of the main Dark Goddesses, so that it's someone that you'll be able to find a lot of information on and work with, because again, this is something you're going to want to take with you beyond and really explore this Dark Goddess and why is she coming up for you.
And then, kind of what shadows, when we talk about shadows, those are those aspects of ourselves that sometimes we push down, that we feel bad about. But we're actually meant to embrace them and use them in a way that works for us and works for our purpose and our mission in life. And I give the example of, my shadow is definitely being like, very staunch in my beliefs, very loyal. And that can go kind of too far sometimes into kind of being a jerk. But if I can embrace that and not just push down that side of me, what I've done is channeled that into my social work, where I have had to be an advocate for people. I have had to be the jerk to a doctor, to a nurse, to a family member that was not treating a client or a patient in a way that they needed to be treated. So I wasn't like, aggressive. Well, I mean, sometimes, and that's not shadow.
You need to be. Right.
I can be aggressive. I can be forceful. But the more that I understand that, the more that I can advocate and use that jerkiness in a way that actually allows people to understand what that person needed most in a kind, caring, compassionate, loving way, but like with force, use
it to your advantage, or use it in the best way possible. And I think that's what we really explore with each Dark Goddess is going to kind of represent a different aspect of what you need to be working on. I mean, like the Morrigan is a big she's a fighter. She's, about really taking control and not allowing other people to, treat you the way you shouldn't be treated, and really about being there for yourself and being able to stand up for yourself and fight. So, I mean, each Dark Goddess is going to come for a reason. She's going to show up in your reading for a reason. And then we're going to pull additional cards to see what other messages she has to offer and what other guidance you might need. So those are really cool if you're looking to work with the dark goddess, which a lot of people, any of the goddesses or gods for that matter, a lot of people struggle with. Well, do you just pick one? Like, how do I do this? And this is a way where through the reading, you're going to be connected. I have you choose your card, face down, of course. You don't know what you're picking, but you choose your own card. So there's a reason you're picking what you're picking. There's a reason that dark goddess is showing up. And then we kind of work through how that might apply to your life and how you might work with her beyond that reading. So yeah, those are really fun. And that's something different if that's what you're interested in working with. And then I also offer ancestral guidance readings. And those are going to connect you with a specific culture. So just like the dark goddess readings connect you with a specific goddess, this one's going to connect you with a culture. So I use an oracle card for that. And really interesting things, come up. We talked before about Egyptian spirituality coming up. And I've had, clients who were either already working with an Egyptian goddess or they were like, yeah, I've been seeing this goddess everywhere, this Egyptian goddess. And I kind of didn't know what to do with it. And then this card is coming up for them. And it's just kind of that confirmation that they need to dig a little bit into that culture and maybe embrace that a little bit more and understand that more. But it's really interesting, the different oracle cards that come up. There's lots of different cultures. I forget how many cards there are, but I want to say there's like maybe 40 or something. And
I love it, obviously, because I do the past life regression.
Yes.
Love past lives. I love digging into those different cultures and those different experiences that we've had. And obviously, when we've lived in different times, we have had different religions that we've followed, or different gods and goddesses, or I've even gone back to the time of Jesus. And so it was with somebody, it wasn't one of the 12 disciples. Yeah. And it was somebody that was like with them though. And so that was amazing to see what they experienced in that moment of being with Jesus. Like, mind blowing.
Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
So like when we're talking about the Egyptian, I've had a past life in Egypt, and that's actually where my fear of getting stuck in places comes from.
Oh yeah.
Because I was building the pyramids and got trapped.
Okay.
And they didn't know that I was down there. So of course I ended up becoming deceased. So it was that, it's not small spaces. It is spaces that I can get stuck in.
Like trapped.
Like have that immediate freak out, fear response. And I've done work around it, but it's still there.
That's a tough one. There. Yeah.
So, now I would love to go back and look at what did I practice at that time?
Right.
What kind of practices and rituals was I doing? And, kind of digging more into the culture. I went to that, quite a few years ago. And that was before I'd really gotten into these kinds of things, like understanding about the gods and goddesses and mythology and practices and rituals. So, I probably should revisit some of the past lives that I've been to before, because now I have a different perspective. So I love that you bring that out and give people that opportunity to look at their ancestry. What cultures do I need to look at? One of the things that I look at too is what gifts do we need to reawaken, or talents do we need to reawaken and bring back with us? And so I think that's a perfect way to look at that too. What was that culture good at?
Yes.
What was
that's a big one.
Because that knowledge is within us. That is universal divine knowledge and wisdom that we've experienced before, and we can reawaken again. And so that reading gives you that dive into it, but then also that jumping off point to learn even more from there.
Right. You take that with you. Yeah. And I think that's interesting, because there is so many ways you can look at the ancestral guidance reading, and it throws people off sometimes, or especially people that are new to kind of the metaphysical world, is, I'm going to connect with grandpa or whatever, or the culture I came from. And that's not really what it's about, but there's so many different ways you can go with it. So you can go the past life direction, or you can go with what are you working with in this life? Or like you said, what that culture was really good at. So like one of the cards is about a culture that worked very closely with like the caribou up in like a more Arctic setting. And they were very dependent on the caribou for everything. I mean, they were not just food. I mean, they were like,
the fur,
they used them to travel and like, yes, they pulled sleds and like, it was a whole thing. And they had this deep connection with all the animals around them. And I had that one come up for someone who I believe was actually doing something with like a dog rescue. And she was like, yeah, that's so spot on. And that, I almost was ready to give up on it because I'm having some struggles with it. And that was like her confirmation that this connection she has with animals and what she's bringing forward, it was just like the ancestors kind of verifying to her that like this connection is important in this world. And what you're doing for these animals is, special, and that's your work. You need to keep doing it. So there's so many different ways. And we pull additional cards too, to kind of tie it all together and see what other messages there might be. But yeah, those are my two, what I call, I guess, specialty readings that I offer that are something a little bit different if you're not just looking for a traditional tarot reading. So
yeah, I love that. Well, and people can pre-book with you, and so your email will be in the description.
Yes.
And they don't have to pre-book. Some people just prefer that, so they know what time they want to come to the expos. So, and then of course, if you have any questions, you can message me, you can message Jennifer directly. And I hope this gave everybody a chance to get to know you a little bit better. Hopefully they saw your interview last year as well. So this is kind of just, the get to know Jennifer even better year after year. And I so appreciate you coming to the expo and being a part of my vision for bringing new and exciting and different ways of viewing the world and viewing life and that magical, mystical way. That's exactly it. So
yes. Yeah. And thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. This will be my second year doing this, and I hope you continue to have this expo for years to come, because I will be there.
Yes, me too. It was so much fun last year. We had an amazing turnout.
We did.
Had amazing vendors, and this year we're doubling the number of vendors.
Yeah.
And it's the lineup is just incredible. Like
it really is.
Small town, I am blown away by the talent that we have here. And I was also blown away by the people that showed up the day of as participants.
Yeah.
And because it can be a little bit scary. It can be a little bit intimidating to go new places and meet new people and do new things. So it was just such an amazing experience all around, from my vendors to everybody that came through the door. So I am just so excited for this year.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So, thank you. And thank all of you out there for being here today. And if you watch this on the replay, just hit replay. And both of us would love to hear your biggest aha moment or one takeaway that you will be implementing into your life, or just one takeaway in general. So thank you all, and we will talk to you soon.